Question 1. Through careful analysis of indemnity principles, consider this situation. Is Wallace owns a boutique that suffers damage due to a burst water pipe. She files a claim and receives compensation equivalent to the value of her lost inventory. However, she also attempts to claim an additional payout for emotional distress and business branding losses unrelated to physical damage. Which of the following best explains why Is Wallace may be partially compensation under her commercial property policy? A. Emotional and branding losses are not insurable interests under Mississippi law. B. Indemnity prohibits insureds from profiting beyond their actual loss. C. Policies exclude emotional damages unless explicitly added. D. Subrogation prevents her from claiming additional losses. Answer. Correct answer. B. Indemnity prohibits insureds from profiting beyond their actual loss. Explanation. The principle of indemnity ensures the insured is restored to their original financial condition without profiting. According to Mississippi commercial property law and standard ISO property forms, insurers are obligated to cover direct physical losses, not intangible or speculative ones like emotional distress or loss of branding, unless endorsed. Is Wallace's claim exceeds the compensable amount defined by the principle of indemnity. Option C is partially true but not the core principle at issue. Subrogation, D, relates to third-party recovery, not overpayment. Option A confuses insurable interest with intangible valuation. Question 2. Under the assumption that an employer purchases a commercial general liability CGL policy with a claims made form retroactive to January 1, 2022, which of the following claims would likely be covered? A bodily injury that occurred in December 2021 but reported in February 2022. B. A property damage incident that occurred in March 2022 and reported in May 2023. C. A claim occurring and reported in 2021. D. An injury in January 2023, reported in April 2023, with a retroactive date of February 2022. Answer. Correct answer. B. A property damage incident that occurred in March 2022 and reported in May 2023. Explanation. A claims made policy covers claims made and reported during the policy period, provided the incident occurred after the retroactive date. Since the injury occurred after the retroactive date Jan 1, 2022, and the claim was made within the policy period, coverage applies. A fails due to pre-retroactive date occurrence. C fails both conditions. D fails because the incident predates the retroactive date. C is CGL for CG01 and the Mississippi Department of Insurance Policy Structure Guidelines. Question 3. From the perspective of risk management, Mr. Kelvin manages a delivery fleet and is concerned about accidents involving third-party injury. He consults his agent about his business auto coverage form BACF, which type of liability protection should be prioritized to safeguard his company against lawsuits from third parties. A. Physical damage coverage. B. Medical payments coverage. C. Uninsured motorist coverage. D. Liability coverage. Answer. Correct answer. D. Liability coverage. Explanation. Liability coverage under the BACF is the primary protection against third-party claims for bodily injury or property damage caused by business vehicle operations. Physical damage. A is first-party medical payments. B. Help with medical costs but not legal liability and uninsured motorist. C is for when the other driver lacks coverage. As per Mississippi Financial Responsibility. MCSS 63151 businesses must maintain liability coverage to operate legally and protect assets. Question 4. When presented with the situation of Mr. Aaron, who is constructing a new commercial office building, his agent recommends a builder's risk policy. Halfway through construction, thieves steal copper wiring and drywall materials from the site. Mr. Aaron wants to file a claim. What is the most likely response from the insurer, assuming a standard builder's risk form was issued? A. The claim will be denied due to theft exclusion in all cases. B. The claim may be covered if theft of building materials is not excluded. C. The claim will be denied unless the building was fully enclosed. D. The policy does not cover personal property, only equipment. Answer. Correct answer. B. The claim may be covered if theft of building materials is not excluded. Explanation. Builders' risk policies generally cover materials intended for permanent installation, including wiring and drywall. Coverage for theft varies by insurer. Some require special endorsement. The ASO CP020 form billed as risk often excludes theft unless specifically added. Mississippi insurers follow customized underwriting based on risk. Option C may apply if the insurer requires enclosure, however, B better reflects the conditional nature of this coverage. Question 5. Throughout the course of underwriting, an insurer evaluates a policy application and relies heavily on information submitted by the applicant and reports obtained from third-party sources. Which of the following best describes a key legal obligation of the insurer under the Fair Credit Reporting Act of CRA during this process? A. Provide detailed underwriting criteria to the applicant. B. Issue a policy before obtaining any reports. C. Disclose use of consumer reports and give a summary of rights. D. Deny coverage if credit history is incomplete. Answer. Correct answer. C. Disclose use of consumer reports and give a summary of rights. Explanation. The IFRAO 15 U.S. C. SS 1681 et sec. mandates that insurers disclose to applicants when consumer reports are used for underwriting decisions and provide summary of rights if adverse action results. This ensures transparency and protects consumer rights. Options A and B are not required by law. Denial for incomplete credit. D is permitted but not legal obligation. Mississippi follows federal law for credit report use in underwriting commercial lines. Question 6. Taking into account common exclusions in CGL policies, a bakery is sued after a customer alleges emotional distress due to a misleading advertisement. The bakery files a claim under their commercial general liability policy. How would this likely be handled under coverage B? Personal and advertising injury. A. The claim is excluded due to intentional acts. B. The claim is covered because advertising injury includes misrepresentation. C. The claim is covered if the misrepresentation was unintentional. D. The claim is excluded under professional services exclusion. Answer. Correct answer. C. The claim is covered if the misrepresentation was unintentional. Explanation. CGL coverage B covers a personal and advertising injury, including misappropriation, slander, and misrepresentation in advertising, as long as it's not intentional. Is a CG01 outlines this clearly. If the misrepresentation was intentional, it's excluded. A. B is too broad and lacks nuance. D does not apply unless the bakery was offering professional consulting, which is not the case here. Question 7. In a modern context of commercial package policies, Mr. Lopez wants to combine several insurance coverages for his real estate firm. His agent suggests a commercial package poly CPP. Which of the following must be included in every CPP for it to be valid under standard policy rules? A. Property insurance and flood coverage. B. Declarations page and common policy conditions. C. Commercial auto and liability coverage. D. Inland marine and umbrella coverage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Declarations page and common policy conditions. Explanation. Per CPP guidelines, every commercial package policy CPP must include at least 2 or more coverage parts along with a declarations page and common policy conditions. These form the legal backbone of the contract. Other coverages, A, C, and D, are optional components. See ISO Form IL 017 for conditions and policy structure standards accepted in Mississippi. Question 8. By evaluating the concept of insurable interest, a company insures a leased commercial property for full replacement cost, even though they only hold a lease and not ownership. A fire destroys the building. The insurer denies full payment. Why is the insurer's decision legally justified? A. The company lacked insurable interest in the building. B. The company failed to pay premiums. C. The fire was not a covered peril. D. Lease agreements invalidate replacement cost coverage. Answer. Correct answer. A. The company lacked insurable interest in the building. Explanation. An insurable interest means a party would suffer financial loss upon damage. Lessees may have limited insurable interest depending on lease terms. If the company insures full value without ownership or contractual responsibility, the insurer may limit recovery. This principle protects against wagering policies, as per Mississippi Insurance Doctrine and Common Law E. McIntyre v. State Farm MS. Financial interest must exist at time of loss. Question 9. With the advent of cyber risks, a small tech firm purchases cyber liability insurance. Following a ransomware attack, they incur legal fees and public relations expenses. Which part of their cyber policy would typically respond to these costs? A. First-party coverage. B. Third-party liability coverage. C. Business interruption insurance. D. Inland marine coverage. Answer. Correct answer. A. First-party coverage. Explanation. First-party cyber coverage includes costs incurred directly by the insured, such as ransom payments, legal consulting, forensics, and crisis management. Third-party liability. B. Addresses lawsuits from clients or users. C. Handles loss of revenue, but not fees. D. Is irrelevant. The NAICS Cyber Risk Handbook and ISO cyber endorsements clarify these distinctions. Mississippi for NAICS Model Cyber Insurance Guidelines. Question 10. While examining the duties of producers under Mississippi regulations, ISTA Rubin, a licensed commercial lines producer, routinely delays remitting premiums collected from clients to the insurer. Which regulatory violation is he most likely committing? A. Failing to maintain a certificate of authority. B. Breach of insurable interest rules. C. Failure to exercise fiduciary responsibility. D. Misrepresentation of policy language. Answer. Correct answer. C. Failure to exercise fiduciary responsibility. Explanation. Per Mississippi Code SS 83-1771, producers hold fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the insurer and client when handling premiums and client funds. Delaying remittance violates this duty and could result in license suspension or civil penalties. Options A, B, and D are unrelated to the specific misconduct. The law requires premiums be held in trust and transferred promptly. Question 11. Focusing specifically on liability limits, a manufacturing firm owns a deal policy with an occurrence limit of $1 million and a general aggregate limit of $2 million. The firm incurs three separate covered claims of $800,000, $700,000, and $600,000 in the same policy year. How much total will the insurer pay under the terms of the policy? A. $1,800,000. B. $2 million. C. $1,600,000. D. $2,100,000. Answer. Correct answer. A. $1,800,000. Explanation. Each occurrence is capped at $1 million. The first claim is paid at $800,000, the second is capped at $700,000, not exceeding occurrence, and the third is capped at $500,000 to not exceed the $2 million aggregate limit. Total payout equals $800,000 plus $700,000 plus $100,000 equals $2 million, but the third payment is limited to $300,000 due to aggregate cap, totaling $1.8 million. The IRS CG01 form and Mississippi Insurance Department liability limit standards guide this rule. Question 12. Examining the consequences of insurance fraud, Is Duncan, a restaurant owner, files a claim for kitchen fire damage. The adjuster discovers the damage existed before the fire, and Is Duncan intentionally inflated the repair cost. What is the insurer's most appropriate legal action under standard policy conditions? A. Pay the full claim due to coverage ambiguity. B. Pay only part of the claim, then cancel the policy. C. Deny the entire claim and void the policy for fraud. D. Increase the deductible to account for misconduct. Answer. Correct answer. C. Deny the entire claim and void the policy for fraud. Explanation. Under common policy conditions, a Mississippi Code SS 83531, intentional fraud or misrepresentation by the insured allows the insurer to deny the entire claim and void the policy ab initio. This upholds contract law and public policy against fraudulent enrichment. A and B fail because coverage is void due to fraud. D is not standard legal remedy in this context. Question 13. As a result of a major storm, a warehouse suffers a partial roof collapse. The insured reports the damage 45 days later after temporary repairs. The insurer denies part of the claim, citing late notice. Why is the insurer's action supported under Mississippi insurance law? A. The insured failed to pay the policy premium. B. The insurer can deny any claim reported after 30 days. C. Prompt notice is required to preserve the insurer's right to investigate. D. Roof damage is always excluded in store-related claims. Answer. Correct answer. C. Prompt notice is required to preserve the insurer's right to investigate. Explanation. Policy conditions require prompt notice of loss to allow timely investigation and mitigation of damages. Delays impair the insurer's ability to assess cause and extent of damage. Parazzo CP 010 and Mississippi Notice of Loss provisions failing this may lead to partial or total denial if the delay prejudices the insurer. A and D are incorrect. B oversimplifies the rule. Question 14. With respect to commercial auto policies, an employee using a personally owned vehicle for work-related deliveries is involved in an accident. The business has a BACF but does not include any non-owned auto coverage. Who bears primary liability for damages to the third party? A. The employee's personal auto policy. B. The employer's BACF. C. The state's uninsured motorist fund. D. The umbrella policy. Answer. Correct answer. A. The employee's personal auto policy. Explanation. Without endorsement for non-owned autos, symbol 9, on the back, the business policy does not respond. The employee's personal auto policy is primary. The Mississippi Motor Vehicle Safety Responsibility Law, MCUSS 63153, supports the requirement for primary insurance on the titled owner of the vehicle. The umbrella may respond. D. Only if scheduled. Trigger. Question 15. Given the circumstances, Mr. Tran purchases equipment breakdown coverage for his factory's production line. Voltage surge damages the circuit board of machine, causing halted operations for 2 days. Which of the following is likely covered under his policy? A. Replacement of the surge protector only. B. Business income loss and equipment repair. C. Product recall expenses. D. Damage from external flooding. Answer. Correct answer. B. Business income loss and equipment repair. Explanation. Equipment breakdown coverage ISO Form BM020 includes repair replacement of the damaged equipment and loss of income during downtime, provided the cause is mechanical or electrical failure. External flood, D, and product recall, C, are not covered under this form. A is too limited and ignores business interruption loss. Question 16. Contrary to popular belief, not all commercial lines policies automatically cover damage to customer property. A dry cleaning company mistakenly destroys a customer's coat due to machine malfunction. Which coverage form would respond in this scenario? A. General liability. Coverage A. B. Bailey's customer policy. C. Commercial property form. D. Business auto liability. Answer. Correct answer. B. Bailey's customer policy. Explanation. Bailey's policy covers property of others in the insured's care, custody, and control, which is excluded under standard CGL or property policies. The dry cleaner is considered Bailey, and the customer's property must be insured separately. CGL excludes property of others in care, ISO CG01. Property forms C do not apply to non-owned goods. Auto D is irrelevant. Question 17. One might argue that inland marine policies are overly complex, but for many businesses, they provide critical coverage. A marketing agency regularly transports expensive cameras and drones to film sites. What coverage form would best protect them? A. Business personal property under EPP. B. Inland marine equipment floater. C. Commercial general liability. D. Garagekeeper's legal liability. Answer. Correct answer. B. Inland marine equipment floater. Explanation. The inland marine floater insures mobile property used in business, such as cameras or tools that travel off CIT EPPPE. Covers on premises only. CGL-C does not cover physical assets. Garagekeepers D is for customers' autos under garage care, not media equipment. This is guided by ISO coverage forms and Mississippi Agent Guidelines on inland coverage. Question 18. Historically speaking, commercial umbrella policies were created to provide catastrophic loss protection. A landscaping company faces a liability claim that exceeds its $1 million CGL limit by $500,000. It holds an umbrella policy. What condition must be met for the umbrella to cover this excess liability? A. The umbrella must include the landscaping industry as a named peril. B. The claim must be unrelated to pollution or professional services. C. The umbrella must be scheduled over the CGL policy and drop down. D. The client must first pay the excess out of pocket. Answer. Correct answer. C. The umbrella must be scheduled over the CGL policy and drop down. Explanation. Umbrella coverage applies in excess of the underlying policy once that policy's limits are exhausted. It must be scheduled over the CGL and a drop down only when the underlying insurance doesn't cover the loss, provided it's not excluded. Pollution, B, and named perils, A, are not the criteria. Mississippi follows nec umbrellum. Guide. Question 19. The common thread among all commercial package policies is their modular design. An insured removes a coverage part from their EPP midterm, leaving only one active coverage part. What is the legal implication of this change under ISO rules? A. The policy must be cancelled and rewritten. B. The remaining coverage part automatically converts to a monoline policy. C. The policy becomes invalid immediately. D. The CPP risking becomes void and full rates apply retroactively. Answer. Correct answer. B. The remaining coverage part automatically converts to a monoline policy. Explanation. Per ISO Mississippi policy guidelines, the only one active coverage part defaults to monoline, not cancellation. Insurers must rate accordingly. There is no need to cancel and write unless requested. This avoids coverage gaps. D. Misrepresents how rating works. Question 20. The impact of failing to comply with the Mississippi Commissioner of Insurance's licensing requirements can be severe. Mr. Sullivan, commercial lines agent, continues writing policies despite his license expiring 2 weeks ago. What consequences is he most likely to face under Mississippi law? A. Suspension with reinstatement fee. B. Civil penalty up to $5,000 and license revocation. C. Warning and temporary probation. D. Automatic reinstatement if he files paperwork. Answer. Correct answer. B. Civil penalty up to $5,000 and license revocation. Explanation. Permis. Codan. SS831775 acting as producer without an active license may result in civil fines up to $5,000. Revocation or both. It is considered unauthorized insurance activity, which the Commissioner of Insurance may penalize severely. Automatic reinstatement. D. is incorrect and reflects misunderstanding of license compliance. Question 21. When faced with a client purchasing coverage for a new restaurant in a flood-prone zone, Agent McBride explains the limitations of commercial property insurance. The client mistakenly believes flooding is automatically covered under his standard commercial property policy. How should the agent clarify this misconception? A. Flood is covered under special causes of loss forms only. B. Flood is a covered peril under all commercial policies. C. Flood is excluded and requires separate NFIP or private flood insurance. D. Flood coverage only applies to inland marine forms. Answer. Correct answer. C. Flood is excluded and requires separate NFIP or private flood insurance. Explanation. Commercial property policies including the CP 1030 special form explicitly exclude flood as a covered peril. Businesses in flood zones must purchase coverage via the National Flood Insurance Program NFIP or specialized private carriers. This aligns with FEMA standards and Mississippi floodplain management guidelines. Option A is incorrect because special forms still exclude flood. D is unrelated. Misrepresenting. B could constitute an unfair trade practice under MS law. Question 22. The most significant aspect of insurable interest is that it prevents moral hazard. Is Jefferson purchases a policy on a building owned by her business partner without notifying him. She later files a claim after fire damages the building. How will the insurer most likely respond? A. Deny the claim due to lack of insurable interest at time of loss. B. Approve the claim if she was named as additional insured. C. Pay half the claim, splitting it with the property owner. D. Pay the claim in full since she paid the premium. Answer. Correct answer. A. Deny the claim due to lack of insurable interest at time of loss. Explanation. Insurable interest must exist at the time of loss. If as Jefferson has no legal financial interest in the building, the insurer will deny the claim. Mississippi law and common law principles prohibit wagering contracts in insurance. Paying D would violate the doctrine of indemnity. B only applies if prearranged. C is unsupported legally. Question 23. The underlying principle of subrogation allows insurers to recover losses from responsible third parties. Ista DeSantis' commercial building is damaged by contractor's negligence. The insurer pays the claim and wants to pursue the contractor for damages. What must Ista DeSantis do to avoid jeopardizing his claim payment? A. Refuse to cooperate with the subrogation process. B. Assign his rights of recovery to the insurer. C. File separate lawsuit against the contractor. D. Add the contractor as an additional insured. Answer. Correct answer. B. Assign his rights of recovery to the insurer. Explanation. The doctrine of subrogation allows the insurer to step into the shoes of the insured to recover from a negligent third party. This right is often found in the conditions section of the commercial property or liability policy. Failure to assign these rights or taking actions that impair them can void or reduce the claim. Options A and C may breach contract terms. D confuses subrogation with risk transfer. Question 24. According to recent studies, businesses are more vulnerable during peak operating periods. A toy wholesaler operates seasonally and wants to ensure adequate property limits during the holiday season. Which endorsement should the agent recommend to address fluctuating inventory? A. Agreed value endorsement. B. Peak season endorsement. C. Spoilage coverage. D. Inflation guard endorsement. Answer. Correct answer. B. Peak season endorsement. Explanation. The peak season endorsement temporarily increases limits for specified timeframes to match seasonal exposure. This helps businesses avoid underinsurance during periods of elevated stock. Found in ISO Form CP410, it's essential for seasonal industries. A. Removes coinsurance but doesn't raise limits. C. Is for perishables. D. Adjusts values for inflation, not seasonal variation. Question 25. While it is true that the business owner's policy BOP simplifies insurance for small businesses, it does not suit all operations. Mr. Ellis runs a mid-sized industrial parts manufacturer and wants to use a BOP for cost savings. What might his business be ineligible for? A standard BOP. A. Is a manufacturing operation with complex exposures. B. It has fewer than 50 employees. C. He owns multiple buildings in the same city. D. His business operates in a leased space. Answer. Correct answer. A. Is a manufacturing operation with complex exposures. Explanation. BOPs are designed for low-risk service and retail businesses. Manufacturers typically face greater liability and property exposures and are excluded under standard BOP eligibility criteria as OBP 03. Options B, C, and D are not disqualifying factors unless otherwise limited by the insurer's underwriting guidelines or Mississippi-specific BOP rules. Question 26. By comparing commercial umbrella coverage to excess liability coverage, one finds nuanced differences. Which of the following distinguishes a true umbrella policy from a straight excess policy? A. Umbrella policies cover only scheduled losses. B. Umbrella policies apply only above auto liability. C. Umbrella policies may offer broader coverage with drop-down features. D. Umbrella policies must be purchased with CGL policies. Answer. Correct answer. C. Umbrella policies may offer broader coverage with drop-down features. Explanation. Unlike excess policies, which mirror underlying terms, umbrella policies can provide broader protection, sometimes filling gaps where the underlying does not apply. This includes a drop-down coverage. Refer to ISO Q01 and Mississippi umbrella rules. A and B are too restrictive. D is not a requirement. Umbrella can apply to multiple underlying lines. Question 27. In what ways can a commercial policy be cancelled midterm under Mississippi law? A contractor's insurer cancels his liability policy 25 days after inception without notice. Why is this action likely unlawful? A. Mississippi requires 10-day grace period. B. Midterm cancellation always requires policyholder consent. C. Mississippi mandates written notice prior to cancellation. D. Policies under 30 days cannot be cancelled. Answer. Correct answer. C. Mississippi mandates written notice prior to cancellation. Explanation. Miss Codan SSA 3528 requires insurers to provide advance written notice before cancellation. 10 days for non-payment and 30 days for other reasons. Failure to notify renders the cancellation invalid. A is partial truth, B misstates policy law, and D is unsupported. Question 20. Among the various forms of liability, directors and officers' liability provides distinct protection. A board member of a tech company is sued by shareholders for alleged mismanagement. What type of policy would best respond to this claim? A. Commercial general liability (CGL). B. Employment practices liability. C. Directors and officers liability. D. Errors and omissions insurance. Answer. Correct answer, C. Directors and officers liability. Explanation: DO liability insurance protects directors' officers against claims for wrongful acts in corporate governance, such as mismanagement, breach of fiduciary duty, or misuse of company assets. CGI does not respond to internal management issues. AOD applies to service providers, and B handles workplace-related claims. Mississippi insurers follow NAIC DO provisions and exclusions for bodily injury or property damage. Question 29. The validity of a binder agreement is often misunderstood. Is Patel an agent issues a binder for a commercial auto policy before receiving premium? Under Mississippi law, which of the following is true about this binder? A. It is valid only if countersigned by the insurer. B. It provides temporary coverage even without premium payment. C. It is invalid without full premium in advance. D. It must be written and notarized. Answer. Correct answer, B. It provides temporary coverage even without premium payment. Explanation: Mississippi law recognizes binders as temporary insurance contracts, usually effective for 30 days, even if premium is not yet paid. See Miss Codan, SS 835351. Binder can be oral or written. Payment is not condition precedent unless specified. A, C, and D do not align with binder doctrine. Question 30. In response to an agent's failure to advise business client about coverage gaps, the client sues for professional negligence. The agent claims the client never asked for flood coverage. Under EO errors and omissions principles, what determines the agent's liability? A. Whether the client signed coverage waiver. B. Whether the agent had duty to identify foreseeable risks. C. Whether the insurer denied the claim. D. Whether the client purchased property. Answer. Correct answer, B. Whether the agent had a duty to identify foreseeable risks. The explanation: EO liability is based on whether the agent failed in a professional duty of care. Courts examine whether the agent should have reasonably identified and advised about the risk, especially in known flood zones. Mississippi EO case law and national standards impose this obligation. Waivers, they help but are not bulletproof. C and D are not relevant to negligence.